Well, I came here in 1925. And in 1926, some friends of mine said, "You should organize this." But I said, "No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to start a new religion or be responsible for it. I don't want to tell anyone what to do. I don't know what to do myself. So how can I tell anyone else?" But they argued this was something they thought valuable, the greatest thing in the world. And they finally convinced me. And we became incorporated 31 years ago as a nonprofit religious and educational organization. The Institute of Religious Science and School of Philosophy, it was called. So we went along, and finally I said, this can't be done this way. If we are going to have a church and there are more people, let's have more churches. So I asked everyone in Pasadena to come to Arroyo Seco Hotel on Sunday nights, and everyone who went to Glendale to come Tuesday nights there. Well, I carried this on for about 6 months and started churches. Well, I did the same thing in Long Beach and in Huntington Park and Santa Monica and Redondo Beach and many other places. This is how our churches got started. They were actually surpluses from our Wiltern theater services. Then we started classes, trained them, and so on. This was merely the way our movement originated. It grew up. It wasn't a planned thing. It wasn't until it had many, many, many branches that I really thought to myself, something is going on here. This really is a thing of destiny. It is going to become the next spiritual impulsion of the world, and I believe it. And then I finally came to see that it had to be organized so it wouldn't fall apart. Now, we have a very wonderful organization, democratic. There are a top board governed by 19 members. 7 of them are elected by the field. This is a new spiritual impulsion in our world. It has certain objectives in the world, has certain purpose to teach and to practice, and nothing else. Teach and practice, practice and teach. That is all we have. That is all we are good for. That is all we ever ought to do. We are a teaching order, not a preaching order. We are a practicing order, not a proselytizing order. Now, we must bear witness to a spiritual truth which has come down to us through the ages. And if there is any truth, this is it. It is a compilation, a synthesis, a putting together of all the great thoughts. Now, if you take the best all the great teachers have given us, the essence all great religions have given us, the essence of all great religions of the world, and put it into one. But take the hellishness out of it, take the rudeness and crudeness and vulgarization out of what was perhaps almost a revelation to suit the whims and fancies of people or the emotional emergence of a group or individual. You won't get anywhere. But if you take the deep thoughts of the ages, Plato and Moses and Jesus, Buddha, Socrates, Aristotle, and Emerson and Plotinus, all of them, you will have to have the greatest teaching the world has. Now, in doing it, it must almost be done by one or a very few people, not because one person is a genius as against others. It must be done by few enough minds at first so they will know what to take out and what to keep. What is this one thought and that, where they dovetail? Very difficult to get a synthesis like this that we have and try to get it out of too many minds. It is not merely that you have to say what is the relationship between, for example, Einstein saying that energy and mass are equal, identical, and interchangeable, and the Jews saying God is one. Or Emerson saying there is one mind common to all individual men. What is the difference between psychic phenomena as it has appeared through the ages and the experiences you know? What synthesizes it without it becoming ridiculous and superstitious thinking that someone is perched on your sleeve talking to you all the time? It is a terrific thing to synthesize the wisdom of the ages. Now, I don't claim to have done it, but we have come nearer to doing it than has ever happened before in the history of the world. Now, we are beneficiaries of innumerable sources. Now, those sources we gladly recognize, and we feel very proud and happy we have had sense enough to use them. They must be brought into line. The great philosophical and spiritual truths must be brought into line with the modern metaphysical knowledge of the law of mind in action, which the ancients did not understand at all. If they did, they didn't practice it, or as far as I know, teach it. They taught the broad, generalized principle, but not in action. Then we have to put together that which synthesized modern psychiatry and psychology. And this vast group of people are still teaching as though you and I had an individual psyche, and we haven't at all. There is no such thing as your subconscious mind, and no such thing as your subliminal mind or Christ mind. This is all a fantasy. The only mind you will ever know is the mind you are using right now. This is one of the great truths, because if your mind is separate from mine, well, you and I wouldn't know each other as here. I know you, and you know me, because the God in us knows himself, not as each other separate and divided, but itself as us. This is the only way we can know anything.